In this video, I want to briefly discuss this question. It's a pretty straightforward question where we're just given the optimal capital structure that a firm would like to maintain, right? We're giving the net income and the investment opportunity that the firm wants to undertake. And given this information, we have to calculate the amount of dividend that it could afford to pay if it's using a residual dividend policy, right? And then calculate the amount. I don't know why I say what percentage here. If they use all their earning, what is the most they could invest? So if they decided to use all earnings in order to reinvest in project, what is the maximum they could do? Now, the important thing here is because we're given the optimal capital structure, right? This firm is only using 35%. Every time it finds a project of a value of $100, it will use $35 of equity and $65 of debt. Okay, so if it has net income of 2,000, well, that 2,000 will just represent 35% of all the project that it wants to undertake. And this is where the difficulty comes from some students a little bit in these type of questions. Okay, so calculate the amount of dividends it could pay using a residual dividend policy. So we know that it has $4 million of projects that have a positive NPV that it wants to undertake, right? In these questions, when I say this, obviously those are the project with positive NPVs. The one with negative NPV we don't really care about. And we know that 35% of that $4 million will have to be financed with equity. So if I take this and I multiply it by 35%, I can find that this firm will need $1,400,000 in new equity in order to finance the new project it wants to undertake. The firm has $2 million in net income. So what the firm could do is keep $1.4 million from net income as retained earning and then pay out the difference in dividends, which means that if I take the $2 million it has in net income and I minus the new the retained earning that it will need to keep in order to satisfy its residual dividends policy, it will then have $600,000 that will be its dividends, right? And that is the answer to the first question. The next question, what percent of net income do they pay as dividends? That's basically what is the payout ratio in this case. And the payout ratio will just be 600,000 divided by 200,000, 2 million, sorry. And the dividend payout ratio is 30. That's my payout ratio. Okay. Next, if they use all their earning, what is the most they could invest? Students tend to really struggle with these type of questions, and that's why I decided to put it here. I think it is an important type of question when we talk about residual dividend policy and things like that, right? So if they use all their earnings, what is the most they could invest? So if they use their 2 millions, right? When would they start to be constrained, right, on the amount of project they can take? The easiest way to do this is to do a little bit of algebra. And I know sometimes students struggle with algebra, but here's what I would do, right? I would say, okay, I want to know the maximum, right, that they can spend on project. This maximum that they can spend on project, 35% of it will be financed from equity. Okay, so I multiply my max. This is basically an unknown. That's an x, right? I need to solve for this unknown. And 35% of that would be, right, if they use all their earnings in new projects, so that means they would be able to use $2 million, right? If they use all of their earnings to finance new project, the maximum they can spend times 35, that's what has to be financed by the equity, should be equal to 2 million. Well, this max is my unknown, is just an x. So it's x times 35% is equals to $2 million. And now I can just solve for the x. I just divide by 35 on both sides, and I get that $2 million. I always struggle with zeros when I don't put commas. Divided by 35% is equals to x. So I just take 2 million, I divide it by 35%, and I get that at the maximum, they could undertake 4,714,285.71 in projects, right? So by the way, just to verify, we can take this number and multiply it by, 35, and if we do that, we should get the 2 million back, right? So if they had this much in project to undertake, they could finance all of those projects based on just their net income for this year by just using all of this as retained earning and having a dividend payout ratio of 0. Hopefully this is clear. Thank you very much.